The largest ship in the United States Navy sailed into calm seas and was never seen again. In March 1918, USS Cyclops vanished between Barbados and Baltimore, carrying 306 men. No distress call, no wreckage, no survivors. Her last transmission was "Weather fair, all well." It remains the single non-combat largest loss in United States Navy history, and after more than a century, no one can tell you why. In the spring of 1910, heavy steel plates and rivets came together at the William Cramp & Sons shipyard on the Delaware River, giving rise to a vessel unlike any the United States Navy had fielded before. Christened Cyclops and launched on May 7th of that year, she measured 542 feet from bow to stern and displaced more than 19,000 long tons when fully loaded. By the time she was commissioned for wartime service in May 1917, Cyclops stood as the largest ship in the Navy's fleet. A Proteus-class Collier built to haul the lifeblood of the modern fleet, coal and later strategic ores. Her two massive boilers fed a triple-expansion steam engine, pushing the ship to a top speed of 15 knots. Four 4-inch guns gave her the profile of an auxiliary warship, but her true strength lay in her cavernous holds, capable of swallowing over 10,000 tons of cargo. At the helm stood Lieutenant Commander George W. Worley, a German-born mariner known for his strict discipline and uncompromising standards. Official Navy records confirm his command, along with his reputation for harshness among the crew. Newspapers of the day whispered about his origins and loyalties, but the Navy's own historical review finds no evidence of disloyalty or sabotage. In the records, there is only the man and the ship, documented, assigned, and cleared for duty. Steel, steam, and command, the Cyclops was ready for war, and the men who served her placed their trust in numbers, orders, and the steady hand of their captain. Yet, even the most formidable ship can vanish, leaving only questions in its wake. A collier's work began long before the open sea. At the dock, cranes and laborers moved mountain after mountain of coal, shoveling black dust into the Cyclops' yawning cargo holds. The process was relentless, coal arriving by rail car, dumped through chutes, then spread by hand deep within the steel belly of the ship. Every ton mattered. The holds, designed to carry more than 10,000 tons, had to be loaded evenly, or the ship would list, threatening both speed and safety. Once at sea, the Cyclops became a floating lifeline for the fleet. Her crew worked in shifts around the clock, feeding coal into the boilers that powered the heart of the ship. Two Scotch-type boilers, fired by hand, demanded constant attention. Blackened stokers shoveled fuel into the roaring fires, while engineers monitored pressure and temperature, and a single lapse could mean disaster. The triple-expansion steam engine, driven by these boilers, kept the propeller shafts turning, pushing the ship through swells at up to 15 knots when conditions allowed. Trim and stability haunted every decision. Too much weight forward or aft, and the bow might bury in heavy seas, or the stern drag, slowing progress. Coal dust, shifting with the ship's motion, could upset the delicate balance. Even routine maneuvers required calculation, and every order from the bridge carried the weight of physics and experience. In wartime, the Cyclops was more than a supply ship. She was the artery that kept battleships alive, her cargo as vital as ammunition. For the men aboard, the work was exhausting, dirty, and dangerous, yet it was the unseen foundation of the fleet's power. Each day brought fresh calculations, new risks, and the constant awareness that a single misstep could tip the balance from order to chaos. In wartime, a ship like Cyclops was more than steel and engines. It was the backbone of America's global reach. The U.S. Navy's battleships and cruisers ran on coal, and Collier served as their lifelines, hauling thousands of tons of fuel across oceans that stretched for weeks without a friendly port. Cyclops, with her cavernous holds and a capacity of 10,800 tons, was built to feed that hunger, moving not just coal, but also strategic cargo that kept factories and fleets running. During World War I, the demands of industry soared. Steel mills and munitions plants required a steady flow of raw materials, none more important than manganese ore. Manganese, mixed with iron, hardened the armor plate that shielded ships and tanks. Every load brought from South America or the Caribbean fed the war machine back home, turning Cyclops into a floating artery of supply. The Atlantic was not just a battlefield, it was a supply line under constant threat. U-boats prowled beneath the waves. But the greater danger was interruption. If the coal and ore stopped, the engines of war would grind to a halt. Cyclops' mission was rarely celebrated in headlines, but every ton she delivered meant more shells, more ships, more hope for victory. The men aboard knew their work was essential, even if it was thankless. In the ledger of war, their cargo mattered as much as any gun or torpedo. The fate of the fleet depended on ships like Cyclops, and with every crossing, the weight of that responsibility grew heavier. Somewhere between the numbers and the orders, a single mistake or a turn in fortune could tip the balance and leave the world wondering what had gone wrong. On the morning of February 15, 1918, the USS Cyclops eased away from the docks at Rio de Janeiro, her holds packed to the limit with manganese ore and her roster swollen to 306 souls. The ship's log recorded her departure with the same precision as every other movement, date, time, cargo, and destination: Baltimore, Maryland, over 4,000 nautical miles to the north. The journey began under clear skies, the Atlantic calm and familiar. 5 days later, a brief stop at Salvador passed without incident, noted only in the administrative record. Cyclops' next appearance in the official timeline came more than 2 weeks later. On March 3rd, she arrived in Bridgetown, Barbados, unannounced and in need of fresh provisions. The ship lingered just long enough to take on supplies and water, her officers signing the port's registry and confirming the cargo manifest. There were no complaints, no reports of trouble beyond the lingering engine trouble that had dogged her since Brazil. By the morning of March 4th, the Cyclops was underway again, setting her course for Baltimore. The distance ahead was measured. 1,800 nautical miles remained. At approximately 2 o'clock that afternoon, a single wireless transmission left the ship. The message was brief, routine, and almost dismissive in its normalcy. Weather fair, all well. No distress, no sign of anxiety. It was the last time anyone on shore would ever hear from the Cyclops or her crew. From that moment, the record goes silent. No further signals arrived. No ship sighted her along the heavily traveled Atlantic corridor. The Navy's chain of communication, so meticulous in its documentation, holds nothing more. The Cyclops simply vanished into the open sea, leaving behind only the certainty of her last position and the chilling finality of a message that, in hindsight, reads like a farewell, whispered into the void. Mechanical failure stands as one of the most persistent explanations. The Cyclops sailed with a cracked cylinder, operating with reduced power across open water. Sister ships in her class later revealed structural weaknesses, and some naval architects have argued that overloaded frames could buckle under strain. Yet, no distress call or debris field has ever surfaced to confirm a catastrophic break. The cargo itself, over 10,000 tons of manganese ore, raises its own questions. Unlike coal, manganese can behave unpredictably when wet. Modern shipping codes warn of liquefaction, a process unknown to 1918 crews, where ore can shift and flow like water. If the cargo moved as the ship rolled, stability could vanish in moments, capsizing even a vessel of Cyclops' size. Weather reports from the period show no hurricane or sudden storm along her route. The last radio message described fair skies. Enemy action, long suspected, finds no support in German naval records or Allied intelligence. No submarine claimed the kill, and no torpedo fragments were ever found. Rumors of sabotage, fueled by the captain's German berth, faded under the weight of official investigation. No evidence, no confession, no intercepted message ever surfaced. And so, each theory collides with the same wall. The Atlantic gave up no wreckage, no survivors, no proof. The absence itself remains as haunting as any explanation. On June 14, 1918, the United States Navy issued its verdict. Cyclops was presumed lost with all hands. The number was exact: 306 men, officers and enlisted, now entered in the official record as dead. No wreckage, no messages, no graves. Families in towns from Pennsylvania to Missouri waited for word that never came. Pay stopped. Letters home ceased. For each name on the manifest, there was a mother, a wife, a child left with only silence. The loss cut deeper than a vanished ship. It was the largest non-combat loss in Navy history, a wound that spread across communities and through the fleet. The Navy, already stretched thin, now faced the sudden absence of a vital cargo vessel. But for those left behind, the true cost arrived not as a statistic, but in the emptiness of a door that never opened again. 306 families still wait for answers, a century later. The ocean keeps its secrets, indifferent to inquiry or loss. For every ship that vanishes, the questions multiply, reminding us that even now, certainty is a privilege the sea rarely grants. Share your thoughts below.